Hello music lovers, welcome to the channel. Thank you for dropping by this video. And in this one, I'm going to be talking about Van Halen and the two worlds of this band that have collided over the course of this past year. What a year it has been if you are a Van Halen fan. You know, it started off with, promise of the original lineup going back out on the road, including Michael Anthony. And now here we are at the end of the year, and we really don't have very many promises at all. And who can we thank for cranking up the rumor mill? None other than this guy. Well, maybe not this one. Someone like him. Oh, yeah. There we go. Diamond Dave, David Lee Roth. Yeah, he has been talking all year practically about Van Halen in one sense or another, going out with the original band, and now all of a sudden he is the face of Van Halen. What the hell's going on? Well, we're going to talk about that and all the spaces in between with Sammy Hagar and The Circle and their new album and their tour. I caught them earlier this year. I'll give you my review about that. We'll also try to decode David Lee Roth and try to figure out what the hell he's been talking about, and we'll see how that factors into Eddie Van Halen's health and the future of the band, along with what are these guys doing, Sammy and Dave, in 2020. So all of that is coming up in this video right now, so stay tuned. So in the fall of 2018, Sammy Hagar announces that he's going to be releasing his final album in 2019. It's going to be a concept album called The Space Between with his band The Circle, which includes Michael Anthony on bass and also Jason Bonham on drums. Of course, Jason, the son of the late Zeppelin drummer John Bonham, and also Vic Johnson on guitar. Vic has been playing with Sammy for the past 20 or so years. And so I was kind of taken aback by this announcement because, well, first of all, final album. Sammy is making a very bold statement. This is going to be his last album. I kind of doubt it. I mean, you never know with Sammy. Sammy's been known, let me just put it to you this way. Sammy's been known to say things and then go back and change it or whatever. So he says it's the final one. I wouldn't count on it. It doesn't have to be. But he did say it was going to be a concept album, which usually is reserved for, like, The Who and Pink Floyd. And so I had no clue that Sammy would make a concept album, and he did. It's a concept album. It's got a story. It's got characters, and this really helped him to write the album. It kind of gave him a framework to work within. He knew that he had to tell a story, and that helped him to come up with the songs, and I'm sure it influenced the tone of these songs and the melodies and everything. And I have to tell you that this album came out very, very good. It's a very strong album in terms of Sammy Hagar. Lots of great melodies. I'm not going to say it's the greatest thing he's ever done, but in terms of what he's been doing lately, even with Chickenfoot or any of his solo work of late, I think that The Space Between is a very strong album. Definitely go check out stuff like, Wide Open Spaces and Can't Hang and Affirmation and those types of songs. Really nice melodies going on there. And Sammy wanted to make sure that the fans listened to the album all the way through. Even though you could listen to this album song by song, track by track, and not really give a shit what the story's about, it doesn't matter. But to Sammy, he definitely wants to get the point across as to what this album is about, and thinks that it has to be appreciated in its entirety. As a matter of fact, I got a copy of the CD here, and I'll tell you how I got it in just a bit. But there's a sticker on it that says that this is a concept album and you should listen to it in its entirety. I mean, you never see this on a Pink Floyd album, I can tell you that. So basically, this album is about money. That's the central theme, and about greed. And it goes back to when money was first printed, and it tells a story about this guy who made a lot of money, and then he gets married, and then he gets divorced, and his kids wind up with a trust fund, and they blow all the money on drugs, and then he gets all upset, and he has this affirmation eventually about how it's not actually money that was the problem, it was the greed and the lust of money that causes all kinds of problems. And that's the main theme of this entire album. And I got to agree with Sammy. I mean, money does have its benefits. You can do a lot with it and certainly make people's lives better. But, as we have seen, money, and the greed of money can lead to corruption, and it can lead to lots of dangerous things, and maybe cheating people out of what they're owed, or maybe using it against them, blackmail, bribery, power struggles, and all this kinds of stuff. And so basically Sammy is saying that a world without greed when it comes to money would be a much better world. And what I found interesting was how Sammy was able to incorporate that into the album. There's a song on this album called Trust Fund Baby. It was the first single that came out. So I did a review of the song when it first came out, and one of the things that I noticed was that the riff in Trust Fund Baby was exactly like a riff used in an old song by Montrose, which is a band that Sammy was in. It was his very first band. However, he didn't write that riff. That riff was written by Ronnie Montrose, who has since passed away. And what's cool is that Sammy, and what I've come to realize and learn, is that Sammy included the riff on the album so he could give Ronnie's family the royalties. And so I thought that was really, really cool. Sammy living up to the mantra of his own album. He could have been greedy and he could have put the riff on there and kept all the money for himself, but he wanted to help Ronnie's family. And that was really, really cool. Now, what's also cool, I guess, is how the album has done very, very well for Sammy. It actually was his first top 10 album ever as a solo artist, or working outside of, let's say, Van Halen, where he scored a lot of big albums. This album went to number 4, The Space Between, and it had over 40,000 albums sold, and that's kind of amazing. You say, well, how did that happen? How did Sammy Hagar move all these albums? Well, we live in an age now where the charts are much different than when I was growing up. It used to be that if somebody didn't walk into a record store and buy the album, then it never charted. But nowadays, album sales are down, and so what do? Well, they're starting to bundle CD sales in with ticket sales. So when I went to go see Sammy Hagar this summer, I got this along with it. So every concert ticket means a CD sale. So that's why Sammy Hagar's album did so well. So on the one hand, it kind of tampers with the charts. It's not really truly accurate because people didn't go out of their way to buy the album. They kind of got a copy with their concert ticket. But on the other hand, it helps out Ronnie's family. And so, here we go again with money being, put to some good use here. So when it came time to schedule the tour for this album, Sammy had to work around something major, and that was the possibility of Michael Anthony rejoining Van Halen for a possible reunion tour. Now, where did this all come from? Well, this all came from David Lee Roth, who was doing an interview, and David Lee Roth, he doesn't really come out and say things directly. He kind of likes to speak in code. And so we're going to look at something that David Lee Roth said late last year about what could happen with Van Halen and Michael Anthony in 2019. We're going to decode Diamond Dave here. So in this interview from late last year, David Lee Roth says, when we come back through town in the summertime and do the original thing, maybe somewhere sporting, maybe with somebody famous. And so this kind of talk reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to watch Batman, with Adam West. And whenever the Riddler would show up, he would give Batman and Robin these riddles, and they'd try to figure it out, Original thing, maybe somewhere sporting, what could this mean, Robin? And then Robin is like, holy diver down, Batman. It means that they're going to get Michael Anthony back, and they're going to play at Yankee Stadium, Good job, Boy Wonder, Then David Lee Roth goes on to say, my rock band will be playing the same place the Yankees play. If I say something on tape here and everybody goes, oh, this leaked, but the band will be, I can't say. So David Lee Roth is just kind of, he's walking the line here. Like, he knows that he can't spill the beans and say that Van Halen's going to do a tour. He knows that he can, but he's hinting, and he likes to talk in code. And so this just blew up all kinds of rumors. The rumor mill was really starting to fly. There were a lot of industry insiders who were saying, yeah, there could be a Michael Anthony tour. And so we come to find out later because, you know, Sammy Hagar starts putting his 2 cents in. He's another one that likes to talk. And then eventually Michael Anthony himself came out and said, yeah, there was a phone call. They asked me if I would be interested. I said yes, but I'm going to be out with Sammy. Just let me know when you want to do this. Sammy Hagar, he's looking out for his buddy, Michael Anthony. He doesn't schedule the entire year. The Circle could have gone on tour the entire year, but they stopped. They ended their tour, I think, at the end of May. And so that in case this Van Halen thing happened, Michael Anthony could be a part of it. This just goes to show you what a cool dude Sammy Hagar is. He put the whole thing, he just scheduled the whole thing around this possibility that something could be happening. And then of course, nothing did. So anyway, I went to go see Sammy Hagar in The Circle earlier this year up at the Wolf Trap in Vienna, Virginia on May the 31st, towards the end of the tour. And I was really happy to see that Night Ranger was the opening band, because I could have gotten Vince Neil, formerly of Motley Crue. And I was really hoping, I really was hoping that I would not get Vince Neil, because look, I have seen footage of Vince Neil live over the past decade or so, and I got to be honest with you, I was not impressed. I think he's done singing. I don't even know if you would call it singing, to be honest with you. And just go check out something like Dr. Feelgood from any show that he's done over the past 10 or so years. And at first, when I was looking at it, I thought maybe, I was like, well, you know, maybe the band's touring in China and he's singing in the native language. Maybe that. Maybe he's breaking in some new teeth and he hasn't gotten it down yet. I don't know. But what I heard was like this: I do not want to be spending the opening band set walking around getting beer. I would rather see a good opening band. So Night Ranger was it. And they kicked ass. Just look at the set that they did. They did pretty much what you would want them to do. You know, Sing Me Away was great. They even pulled out High Enough from the Damn Yankees. You know, When You Close Your Eyes, I love that song. Sister Christian, of course, and then they close it out with Don't Tell Me You Love Me, which is, you know, my favorite song from those guys. But anyway, Jack Blades and those guys did a great job. If you get a chance to see Night Ranger, do it. They kicked ass. So Sammy Hagar and The Circle come out and do their set. And let me tell you, if you want to go see a solid rock performance, go see Sammy Hagar and this band. They are fantastic. And the set list is just incredible. And one of the things that Sammy loves is that with this band, he can play anything. You know, he couldn't do that in Chickenfoot. You know, when he was playing in Chickenfoot with Joe Satriani, as cool as that band might have been, they didn't play everything. He's able to play Van Halen and Montrose, his own solo stuff, and of course now that you've got Jason Bonham, you can do Zeppelin. It's a solid set list, and I'm just going to run through it here. They kick things off with Trust Fund Baby, brand new track I was just talking about. There's Only One Way to Rock, one of my favorite Sammy solo tunes. Always love this one, and live it kills. It's just got such a great riff, great energy. Three Lock Box, that's a great solo tune. And then we get into some Van Halen, Pound Cake, and then I Can't Drive 55. And what's cool is that Sammy Hagar will let Michael Anthony sing. You know, he'll let him do some lead vocals here and there. And, you know, Michael Anthony pitched in during this tune. And, you know, Michael Anthony is, he's a better singer than people realize. They think about Michael Anthony as just a background singer, like he's got really good high background vocals, but he can actually sing. You know, it's a bit of a higher voice, but he's got a lot of power, Michael Anthony. And so it's good to see Sammy letting Michael Anthony just rip. Then they do Can't Hang, which is a great song off the new album, Space Between. Space Between's got a lot of really good, solid tunes, lots of nice, you know, melodies, harmonies. It's nice to hear Michael Anthony singing some really good harmonies, kind of like reminds of the Van Halen days. Finish What You Started from Van Halen, Right Now. Devil Came to Philly, Rock Candy from Montrose. Also, they do Full Circle Jam, Why Can't This Be Love? Of course, you know, that's a great Van Halen tune from when he first joined the band. Then we get Rock and Roll from Led Zeppelin. Of course, this is there because of Jason Bonham. It's curiously the only Led Zeppelin song in the entire set. Usually they may do a couple of them, but I guess because they have the new album, they decided to go a little bit lighter on the Led Zeppelin. What was cool about this night in particular, May 31st, it was John Bonham's birthday, or it would have been. He would have been 71 years old. John died at 32. And so Jason did a little bit of a tribute to his father. That was really, really cool. Up next, they did a track called Heavy Metal, which is a Sammy Hagar tune. That was a track that he contributed to the movie of the same name, which is really great live. Mas Tequila, another Sammy song, great sing-along there. Eagles Fly, a rare Sammy solo tune. Best of Both Worlds. And Affirmation from the new album closed out the show. So overall, a great set list here, you know, very well balanced. Zeppelin, solo stuff, a new album, and a little bit of Zeppelin. And one of the great things about this show was Vic Johnson, the secret weapon in Sammy's band. I talk about secret weapons from time to time. I'll go see a band and, you know, we tend to focus on the big names, but Vic Johnson is not talked about a lot. He's a tremendous guitar player. This particular show, he was nursing a bad leg, and so he was sitting down, but he did not show any signs of restraint. He was playing tremendously well the entire night. He plays Van Halen material, Zeppelin material, Montrose, whatever you throw at him. He plays it perfectly. Vic, very underrated guitar player. Definitely go check these guys out if they come to your town. So anyway, as the year goes on, there's still no mention of this reunion that David Lee Roth talked about, this original thing. No Yankee Stadium, there's no announcements, there's no nothing. David Lee Roth does hint that there's going to be a band meeting coming up where he's going to be getting together and talking with Eddie and Alex about what's going on with Van Halen next. Now, after that meeting, that's when David Lee Roth comes up with some more stuff that we have to decode. So let's take a look at what David Lee Roth says following this meeting with the Van Halen brothers. All right, so now Dave is saying it's been canceled a number of times, and I think Van Halen's finished. I've inherited the band de facto, whatever that means. I think it means you've inherited it. Carry this proudly. Van Halen isn't going to be coming back in the fashion that you know. And that being said, Eddie's got his own story to tell, not mine to tell it. So here we have David Lee Roth making some pretty big claims here. You know, he's saying that Van Halen is finished. He says that he has inherited the band, like the band is over and now he's left holding the baby, as we've heard many times with other bands. And that Van Halen's not going to be coming back in the fashion that we know. Well, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that it's just going to be him playing these songs, that there's never going to be a Van Halen band with some other singer? I mean, we don't know exactly what's going on here. But what we do know is that whatever happened in that meeting with Eddie and Alex and the management, that David Lee Roth came away believing that there was going to be no Van Halen action anytime in the near future. And that basically, you know, if there was going to be any kind of a continuation of the band, it was going to be him. It was all on him now to carry the Van Halen name into the future and the music and all of that. Because what did he do next? David Lee Roth announced next that he's going to be hitting Vegas and that he's going to be doing a show filled with Van Halen songs. Usually when David Lee Roth goes out and plays live, he does a few Van Halen songs because he's got his own solo stuff. But this time around, he's touting like, you know, there's going to be 26 songs that you all know and love, and this is going to be a spectacle, and he's going to be doing, you know, shows in, I think, January and March of next year. And so, you know, this, you would think that if the band had a problem with this and what he said, that there would have been a statement from the band, that they would have come out and said, no, this isn't correct, the band is still intact. But no, there's been no statement to deny what David Lee Roth said. There's been nothing to confirm what he has said. So it's like, you know, as far as we know, there is no band at this point. So then this kind of opens up all kinds of questions as to, what may be going on with Eddie Van Halen's health. Was there something said on this phone call that, made David Lee Roth think, well, there's just no way the band's going to be coming back, because maybe Eddie's got cancer. And there's been talk about Eddie Van Halen having cancer, his cancer having come back. There were stories in the news lately about Eddie Van Halen going to Germany for cancer treatments. And so there's been all kinds of speculation within the industry from people who know Eddie that, yeah, he is dealing with something again. And even Steve Lukather of Toto, I'm going to share with you a quote that he came out with. He also kind of dancing around the issue, but in his own way, I think making it kind of clear. Here's what Steve had to say. He said, "I look you right in the eye and say, listen, I've been in contact with Ed. We text all the time. I really can't say much, man. I don't want to say anything. Him and Alex are sitting there, laying back, and they're waiting to see what happens next. I think they're on a hiatus. All I'm going to say is I don't think there's any drama issues that are keeping them from working right now." So apparently, Lukather is basically saying that there's no drama stuff going on here. This isn't about nobody being able to get along with the other. This is about health. And the fact that he says that, Eddie and Alex are sitting back and waiting, this seems to indicate to me that Eddie is dealing with some serious cancer issues. Maybe it's spread, maybe he's going through some serious chemo, and there's just lots of questions. They don't know how long it's going to take for him to get through this, if he will. And certainly, if he does get through this, you think that he's going to want to just go jump on stage or go into a recording studio and get right back to work. And Eddie has speculated in the past about where he may have gotten his cancer from to begin with. And he talked about how being in a studio, there's lots of energy there that could potentially, cause cancer. And so, certainly going out on stage and performing, you're around all kinds of electrical stuff. Not a good environment if you've had cancer, especially if your cancer has come back. And so Eddie may not be rushing out to do anything, even if he does get through this. And so there has been no official word from Eddie, but we have gotten some indications from his son, Wolfie, that Eddie at least isn't on his deathbed. And I think that, this might be, the way that the band gets word out without making any kind of official announcement. Wolfie posted on his Twitter, I think it was, or his Instagram, a picture of him with his mother, Valerie Bertinelli, and Eddie. They all got together and apparently were having some family fun, and it just said family. That's all that Wolfie said. And I think that that speaks volumes about what he was trying to get across. He was trying to basically say, look, my father is not dying on his deathbed the way a lot of people think he is. We're still a family. We're still having fun. We still enjoy being with each other. And even Wolfie went out with his father to go see the band Tool. And what was interesting about that was there was a fan that wanted to get his picture taken. He asked Eddie Van Halen, without knowing who Eddie was, to take a picture of him. And Wolfie was there, and he thought that was kind of funny. He took a picture of his father taking a picture of this guy. And so then there's also a photo that somebody else had taken of Eddie at that show. We get a good look at what Eddie's looking like at this point. And, Eddie, he doesn't look awful, but you can tell that he definitely doesn't look as good as he has in the recent past. Definitely looks like he's going through some stuff here. So really, we don't know exactly what's going on with Eddie Van Halen, but we could probably safely assume that he's dealing with some pretty serious issues at this point. And we certainly hope the best for him. And, what's going to happen if he does get through this, let's say, and decides that he is able to go out and perform again? What's it going to be like? Is he going to go out with David Lee Roth? Is there a possible reconciliation with Sammy Hagar? It's really hard to say because there's different relationships between David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen as opposed to with Sammy. You know, with David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen, that was a contentious relationship ever since the word go. They were always at each other's throats, always trying to one-up each other, you know, undermine each other, constant conflict. You know, when you go see Van Halen live or you listen to their early albums, you know, it's almost like listening to the thunder crack, you know, that hot and cold air coming together. That's the sound of Van Halen. It's the two opposites, you know, just crashing into one another. With Sammy Hagar, it was a bit different. You know, Sammy and Eddie got along like best friends. They had this kind of a relationship that he never had, that Eddie never had with David Lee. Completely different. And I think when it went sour with Sammy Hagar, I think Eddie took it more personally. It was more of a betrayal. He never felt a betrayal with David Lee Roth because that's all they ever did to one another, was kind of fuck with each other. But with Sammy Hagar, there was a really deep friendship. And I think, you know, whatever it was that they went through when the band broke up in the mid-90s, I think they got over that, because let's keep in mind, they did get back and they went on that 2004 tour. But things went south during that tour. It started off fine, but then things kind of got shitty. A lot of it had to do with Eddie, I think, going back to alcohol or whatever. He seemed like he was kind of going off the rails towards the end of that 2004 tour. And, you know, I think that after that, Sammy writing his book, I think, and I did a whole video about this, and I'll put a link up to it where I kind of explore this whole thing, but I think Sammy writing his book, profiting off of telling stories about Eddie and his brother Alex and all this stuff, going on the circuit, you know, television interviews, all these interviews, talking about Eddie and his personal life. I don't think Eddie and his brother appreciated it. And I think they hold it personally against Sammy. And that's why they haven't talked to him. They haven't said anything to him. And I think that's the main reason why Sammy and Eddie are kind of in this limbo zone. And who knows if that will ever get corrected. And so we'll see. Let me know what you guys think about this whole, you know, drama going on in the two worlds of Van Halen. You know, coming up in 2020, Sammy Hagar and The Circle are hitting the road. South American dates I'm starting to see. Hopefully they come back to the States and do some more shows. Like I said, you got to go check them out. David Lee Roth, Vegas, baby, that's where he's going to be. He's got, I think, 9 shows scheduled for January and March. And I bet if those go off well, he'll be doing a whole lot more. You know, Dave needs to be in Vegas. You know, just remember the end of the Hot for Teacher video when they predict, you know, where they're going to be in the future. David Lee Roth is the game show host. You know, it's all about Dave. Dave, it's, you know, everything centers around Dave. The world revolves around Dave. Dave is the party, and Vegas is really where he should be. But I think as a singer, he's shot. You know, I would never go see him live. And I think, you know, the thing about Dave that I will say is that he's great at speaking. You know, he can be very interesting, even though he goes on and rambles and all kinds of shit. But I think David Lee Roth is a really interesting speaker. And I think he should go on like a speaking tour. You know, that would be cool. That's where I think he fits best at his age, you know. But if you want to go see Van Halen tunes, you want to go see a real rockin' band, go check out Sammy and The Circle. Let me know what you think about this whole mess, all right? Drop it down below. Check out my playlist for this video. I've got all kinds of clips and everything, things related to stuff I've talked about in this video. I'll throw a link up to that playlist. Check it out. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. All right, and hit that subscribe button too, and I'll be back soon with another video, all right? So take care.
It would be Bonzo's birthday today. God bless him if he was here with us. He would be almost as old as you, Sam, if he was here today. Sorry, I've been waiting to say that for a long time. Yeah, it is true.